Have you not listened to your elders, my friend?
I've listened to the elder, but I don't listen to...
Okay, you have.
Welcome to Right Between the Eyes podcast, a KISS podcast with 3 generations of KISS fans telling you why we love it loud. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Right Between the Eyes podcast, a KISS podcast with 3 generations of KISS fans telling you why we love it loud. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Myers, and welcome to RBTE V4. Haven't done a V whatever video in a while. And Nick and Nico aren't here. This is kind of an impromptu video. I was actually going to try and do this on October 17th, which was the release of Hot in the Shade, the 34th anniversary of Hot in the Shade. More on that in just a second. If you're just tuning in, this is your first time coming to the YouTube channel, hello. We also have an audio podcast. All the links are down here. We're primarily an audio podcast, but we do video content from time to time. Time to time, sometimes they are used as preview clips, and then we will put full special episodes, including our Road to Rosemont series. So there is a whole group of us with Emily Graziato, 96. It's all for you, Demon. Now he is not going to Rosemont, but Rick has joined us. We have Xander and soon to be Jeb, I believe, from KISS Army Things. And Brant from In My Head. We are all going to Rosemont on November 27th of this year to see all of our final KISS shows. So more on that on a future episode that we are actually going to be recording tonight. This is October 20th, and we'll be recording episode 5. It's a Halloween episode, so this will be out before that. So if you are new to the channel, we are 3 generations of KISS fans. Nick being back in the OG days, me firmly planted in the 80s, 90s era, and Nick's son Nico is the modern era KISS Day fan. So this is a video that I was wanting to do, and I was wanting to do it as the day went on through the 17th, and thinking, oh, this is the 35th anniversary of Hot in the Shade. So if you've listened to our show, and I'm trying to remember, I think it's episode 5, I'm going to put an annotation running across the screen, either I was right or I was wrong. Hot in the Shade, here it is. This is the first KISS album I ever bought. This is what got me into the band, and I know the exact date of when that was. It was December 2nd, 1989. I keep thinking I keep saying 1998, 1989, 34 years ago, close to it, 34 years ago for this album coming out, but it won't be till December for that to be, to ring true. Our town here has a Christmas festival every year, and that was something that my family was heavily involved in, and the community. And my best friend Ben lived on the outside of town. And back in the days where you had cable, it was like, oh, that was really cool. He was out in the country, didn't have cable. So I was always taping MTV and all that kind of stuff. And then when he would come up here for any type of event, or we would hang out, he would want to see what were the latest videos on MTV, what new bands could we get into, and what was on Headbangers Ball. So of course, it being December, this particular Christmas holiday season, or early December, sometimes here it snows, sometimes it doesn't snow towards the tail end, and lately in Ohio it doesn't snow at all till February. But this particular season, it was snowing, and it was kind of nice walking through your Christmas winter wonderland here in our small little village. But you would go to places to get warmed up, and Ben was always really good at saying, hey, did you tape Headbangers Ball the previous Saturday? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we went home to warm up. That was our code for let's go watch MTV. So we'd sneak off, past our parents and all that stuff. And our house is a little farther away from the park, which is where all the festivities were held. And we put in, the Headbangers Ball episode that had just aired the previous Saturday. So we put that in and started watching. And we had bought in some caramel corn and just different stuff that we had got down at the at the park for the Christmas festivities and stuff. So we were just kind of watching stuff. So if you've been listening on the podcast long enough, you know, or my first KISS moment, I was aware of KISS. I remember having the KISS trading cards when I was in like elementary school or something like that. In 1989, to put a time frame on it, I'm 15 years old, and so is my best friend, Ben. So I remember having the trading cards as a kid. Somehow I bought them at a grocery store with my mother, and she didn't take too kind to KISS and the makeup and all of the stuff that was swirling around KISS at the time. So those cards magically disappeared somewhere, and I kind of forgot about KISS. There was a public access show called 321 Contact, and they were doing a show circa 1979 about the color of lights, or there was a NOVA, or a science show. So they were talking about light in general, and they were using stage lights to talk about how light works. Without getting long-winded, the subject matter that they were using was a concert stage, and it was at a KISS concert. So I remember seeing like, oh, that's that band that wears the makeup. That's KISS. Like, I knew the name, but again, it wasn't a group that I was listening to. I was listening to more pop stuff, and still in 79, I'm still quite young, being born in 74. So through the 80s, I had kind of chucked KISS out of my memory. Not chucked, but it just kind of dissipated out of my mind. And it wasn't something I was listening to. Other classmates, as we were going through the 80s, were listening to KISS. And I remember being at a basketball game when the team was warming up. They would have a high school basketball game. They would have a boombox on the gym floor, or they were piping it through the PA. And they would put, whatever cassette tape back in the day was popular. And later, memory would recall that what they were listening to was smashes, thrashes, and hits. I didn't realize it at the time. I think I kind of remembered Rock and Roll All Night, but I remember being one of those that was like, oh, KISS is bad, they're satanic, and, all that crazy junk, just because I didn't know. And the makeup might have been a little frightening, which is going to feature into our upcoming episode that we're recording tonight for our Halloween episode. So all that stuff, like not having enough information to intelligently talk about something. So when you don't know something, it's really quick to dismiss it. Or if it's, when I was growing up, if your friends didn't like that thing, then that thing must not be cool, or it must be bad, or all the rumors that you would hear about would be true. So I didn't pay much attention to KISS at the time, as I was listening to more pop stuff. I was starting to get introduced into, I was a big fan of Def Leppard and Bon Jovi. Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction was coming out in 88. So my musical taste was getting away from pop stuff on the radio towards rock and roll. So going back to December 2nd, 1989, we're watching MTV, we're seeing the latest stuff that's on, and then Hide Your Heart comes on. And Ben was like, oh, this is KISS. And I was kind of instantly wanted to go, oh, it's KISS. I wanted to grab the remote and fast forward. He's like, no, I heard this song on the radio the other day and I didn't catch who it was. He goes, it's KISS. Now, his grandmother for Christmas back in 88, a year earlier, had given him Crazy Nights as a cassette tape. And I remember for a Christmas present, I remember going to his bedroom and him trying to play some of it. And again, I was dismissive of KISS. And just like you are with friends, when one friend doesn't like something, the other one's like, oh, okay. So he kind of put that in his cassette tape, collection, and went on our way. And here we are a year later watching MTV and watching the Hide Your Heart video. And we were just instantly encapsulated in this video and couldn't, it was like, this is going to sound corny. It was almost like breathing new air for the first time or something. It was edgy. It was fun. The chorus was a hook that you could get right into. And just the way the video was, kind of like a Streetcar Named Desire type of thing, Jets, and, the Jets, all that stuff, West Side Story, all those things kind of wrapped up in a really cool, edgy way. And the band is playing on the roof. And I remember taking note of Eric Carr and looking at his big black drum kit that was there. And when the video ended, we both looked at each other and I was like, you want to watch that again? He's like, yeah, let's do it. to me, it seems like we watched that video 100 times. And we very well may have. After we got warmed up, we watched a few more videos. Then we went back down to the park and then called each other the next day being Sunday. Well, we saw each other in church on Sunday and we're talking about Kiss. And he's like, hey, remember my grandmother got me that tape of a Kiss tape. He couldn't remember the name of it. It was Crazy Nights or Crazy something. And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, I'll make you a copy of it. Well, once we left church, I didn't see him till Monday in school. So school rolls around and we were still talking about Hide Your Heart. He gave me the cassette tape, a blank copy of Crazy Nights. And he's like, I think that album, their new album, is out. Do you want to go after school and go pick it up? And we did. We talked to one of our two parents. I think it was his parents. And we drove into town and bought this. So I didn't listen to Crazy Nights right away. But while we were in the store, I found this magazine. This became my Kiss Bible. This is Rock Scene Spotlight number 11. Kiss, never seen photos, up close studio exclusive featuring the making of Hot and Shade plus Kiss reminiscing their recording history. We each bought a copy of this magazine, and this became our Kiss Bible for a long time. We were riding in his parents' car, and we heard the first track, the opening of Rise to It. Thought that's kind of this bluesy type of intro, like, oh, that's different. It wasn't what we were expecting, hearing Hide Your Heart. And then the body of the song came in, and we were like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And that is how my Kiss fandom starts, as 1989. You know, as the year would roll on, we both wanted to go to the show in 1990. Both of our parents said we were too young, or, you know, my mother was like, you're not listening to Kiss. You're not bringing that kind of music in the house. So I was being real secretive and all that type of stuff. But I played this cassette tape over and over and over and over again. And this pairs into why I'm doing this video and why the anniversary of this album really kind of hit me, given the current landscape of what's going on in the band. And that is, I didn't know back in 1989 that I wasn't supposed to like this album. I keep telling Nick and Nico, that's what we're going to do an episode on the show sometime called I'm Not Supposed to Like That. There wasn't the internet back in the day. There was kind of, in the way, like I mentioned, if one friend doesn't like something, the other one doesn't like something. But once you become a fan of something, it's really hard to listen to outside people tell you the thing that you like isn't good. And for, I wouldn't say a lot, but the majority of people, when they say you liked Kiss, especially in the 80s, they were like, oh, Kiss. I mean, that band that used to wear makeup, that was something of folklore that Ben and I, when we would flip through this magazine and see the pictures of the band, is still trying to figure out who's who, like what makeup was Eric Carr wearing? What makeup was Bruce Kulick wearing? And realizing this, reading this magazine going, oh, that's not, Bruce wasn't in the band wearing makeup, but Eric Carr was for a fraction of a second. So it's like all of these things are hitting us. And again, we're in the late 80s, actually this time we're in the 90s now. And we couldn't go to the show, but I ended up buying this other magazine up here that talks about the tour and how cool it was with the Sphinx. And he was just starting to pick up guitar, and I was just starting to learn drums that are back here. This is actually the original bass drum way back when that I learned on. And then tragically, we lose Eric Carr in late 90, early 91. And I remember, I don't know if devastated is the right word, but I was really depressed. I remember being in the car and hearing the news on the radio, and also it was like Eric was a footnote. You know, Freddie Mercury passes away. Oh, and Kiss drummer Eric Carr, you know, battling cancer, you know. It was just weird. I remember being in the car, and they actually played Forever, which I thought, great, they're going to play a Queen song, but they actually played Forever. And they dedicated it to both Freddie and Eric Carr. And I remember Ben calling me, because I think I was coming home from work, working at a grocery store, and he said, did you hear the news? And I remember seeing on MTV the story, And I had a lot of drumming idols when I was first learning drum, but it was Eric Carr because we were just listening to so much Kiss and buying, the past Kiss albums. We kind of had this deal where we were like, rather than us both continuing to buy the same album, let's buy different albums. And when you buy one, we made this checklist and say, okay, you bought Asylum. Okay, I won't buy Asylum. I'll find Animalize or whatever the next thing was that we found. So if I found Peter Criss's solo album, I would say, hey, I found Peter Criss's solo album. So we checked it off a list, and then maybe he bought Paul Stanley. And then we made cassette copies back and forth of whatever the other person didn't have until we had the whole catalog up to that point. And then it was like, well, I want a copy of Asylum, or I want a copy of Peter Criss, or whatever it was. So then we would go out until we got all of the real cassettes. And, we know the story of, how Eric Singer came in the band. And that's where my switch was. Not that I still didn't love and respect Eric Carr, but me being in my formative years of drumming, I didn't have the newest music video of Kiss with my favorite Kiss drummer right there because he had passed away. And so I remember Ben going, this is really kind of cool for you. You get to experience, we get to experience a new Kiss member coming in. And, this other Eric might be really kind of cool. I remember we bought the Badlands album, and I found a Black Sabbath album that he had played on. And I was like, he sounds really cool. And that build up to Revenge was so cool that I just gravitated right towards Eric Singer because he was the one like literally in front of us that I could watch videos and emulate and stuff like that. Again, not that I didn't love and like Eric Carr. So that's like my Kiss history, but it all comes back to this album. So that was a long-winded answer to get to this point of the 34th anniversary. This isn't something like, all right, there's going to be, the 30th anniversary is back there, the blue vinyl that they put out, 4 years ago. But what this 34th anniversary means to me today is what this year is for all of us Kiss fans. This is the last year that Kiss is a touring entity. And on one hand, you could say Kiss is ending. I think Kiss is very much going to be like the Beatles, going to be like Led Zeppelin. They are going to go on forever in some form. The Beatles stopped touring, long before they stopped making music. And all of these years later, they're still re-releasing, putting out unheard stuff or alternate takes. We just got, a Beatles movie documentary a few years ago. What could be in store for Kiss? Kiss is getting ready to sell the brand. But this 34th anniversary and doing this podcast and the build up to our final show, would it be great to be at the New York show on December 2nd? How fitting would that have been that if I could have found a way to get to New York, that I could see the last Kiss show on December 2nd, the very same day that I 100% discovered Kiss. Not that I remember seeing it on a baseball card or, a public access science show or a scary magazine cover, that when I said, I'm a Kiss fan right here, right now is December 2nd. And then on December 2nd is when Kiss is taking their final bow as a touring band. That would be poetic amongst poetic things. But what the Rosemont show is for me is I saw my first Kiss show November 22nd in Toledo, Ohio on the Revenge Tour. And I'm seeing my final Kiss show in the month of November just a few days later. So there's some synergy there. But knowing that this is where, like Paul Stanley says, it doesn't matter what floor you got off on in the elevator, where the elevator took you on the floor. We're just glad you made it to the party. that Kiss and their music and what all of the songs, all the vinyl that's behind me and the CDs, what this band has meant to me, all starts right here. Like or love this album. If you have your opinions of it, hey, great. But that first kiss that we talk about on the show, you never forget your first kiss. Even your real life first kiss, you never forget that moment. And, you know, fittingly for the band, it was Hide Your Heart was the first Kiss song where I heard it and knew from seeing it on MTV going, that's Kiss. I know who that is, and became a fan. And then just all of these songs, as I'm kind of looking at the vinyl here, because maybe I'm approaching 50 and I can't read the small print on the CD anymore. But just, I mean, how cool is that cover? Again, I found the tapestry back here at a flea market. It's got a couple holes in it right there, and I think there's one up here that you can't quite see next to my microphone neon light up here. But and this is my BMG when vinyl was just about on their way out through a record club. But songs like, I remember when Betrayed started, and just how cool Betrayed was. The second song on the album being Gene, where that typically is, and then Hide Your Heart. We've reviewed the album. I won't go through all of them, but just some standout tracks on here. I always, again, a thing that I probably shouldn't like, or I'm not supposed to like, is Read My Body. I love that song. You call it a Def Leppard knockoff. You can call it a Def Leppard Bon Jovi knockoff. Doesn't matter. I don't even want to call that a guilty pleasure, because that's supposed to be the thing where you're like, oh yeah, I don't like that song. No, I don't like. I love that song. I don't know if I've ever publicly said it. I love that song. We would be singing at the top of our lungs when we were shooting basketball in the summertime. The miles that this cassette tape has traveled with me is just massive. Forever, I've talked about on the show, is my wife and I's wedding song. We walked out of the church to Forever. It was a second marriage. It's a second marriage for both of us. As you know, for maybe some of you don't, we had a cancer scare. I think it's the first time maybe I've actually said the C word here on the podcast. This year looked really dark for the two of us. At one point on Good Friday, and I think beyond the Carusos, I think this is the only time I've said it on the show, we were told that she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer on Good Friday. And all of our parents were in the room after her biopsy. Now, we didn't get the results on the biopsy. That's just what the doctor thought his findings were. And you want to talk about a gut punch. Aside from praying an awful lot, music has always been that thing that both of us have gravitated towards. And a million different songs we were listening to from all kinds of genres, but you know what the one thing was that I listened to and we both would listen to and probably cry over? Forever. I bought the 45 that's sitting up there, and I wanted to get it framed on our 16th wedding anniversary. In the back of my mind going, are we going to make it to 16? We were told that in April. In September, we just celebrated our 16th wedding anniversary, and we both had a good cry. So people are wondering, oh my gosh, does she have cancer? No. The test results came back with something else that we're dealing with. It's not cancer. That's awesome. That's great. So he's got a couple other hurdles to run around. But the reason I say all of that, and the reason I'm doing this video, is because of the 34th anniversary of Hot in the Shade. And because this is the end, call it phase 1 of KISS. Or you can count how many phases depending on how many members have come in and out. But as far as recording, touring, and then it just became touring. So maybe phase 2, we don't know what's December 3rd look like for the band. You know, what's a year from now going to look like for the band? Hopefully merchandise-wise it continues on. But getting back to my wife and getting back to this album, it hit me the scary possibility that I could lose my wife. Just put everything in perspective. All of the things that we spend all of the time on social media complaining about or arguing about, and just, even politically, worldviews. And then you get into things like music, the things that are supposed to bring us joy, the things that are supposed to be the escape from reality. Sometimes those are the things, and even the movies that we pick at, and this character's not doing that, and this movie's kind of horrible. Why are we seeing the same show again and again? I don't like Eric and Tommy in the makeup. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter one bit, one iota. If you don't like it anymore, there's the door. The door is completely open for you to walk out of or into. For every time somebody wants to walk out of the door, there is some kid in that arena that is seeing their first and last KISS show on this next 24 shows, since Cincinnati has just ended at the time that we are, that I'm shooting this. And tonight is Detroit, which I should be at the Detroit show, but I'm not. But I digress. All of that aside, somebody in that arena could be discovering KISS for the first time. I've had 34 years with this band, and I am happy for every single moment and ounce of it. I was sad losing Eric Carr. I was sad when the reunion tour happened that I lost my favorite KISS lineup, that I always include Eric Carr in that. The Bruce Kulick, Eric Carr, Eric Singer, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons lineup. That's my favorite lineup, because that's the lineup and amalgamation of the band that I came into. But I was kind of happy to see the thing that I never thought I was going to get to see, the original band together on MTV, and then to find out the original band is going to go on tour and makeup. That I was sitting in Tiger Stadium with my best friend Ben, side by side, just a few rows up, because I'm a big Tigers fan. We were just in Tiger Stadium a few weeks prior watching a Tigers ball game, and here we are in Tiger Stadium, close to the same seats where our season tickets were, going, I can't believe we're seeing KISS. Yeah, my favorite lineup's not here anymore, but Ace, Paul, Gene, Peter are all there. Paul, I think the Paul. But there they are on stage. I can't believe it. And then all the stuff that happens. Yeah, there may have been some steps through along the way. I'm going to swear for a bit. Dubai. I lost $240. So, yeah, there's some things where I go, way to go, Rob. This was a nice touching video you did, and you had to swear here. All of that, all of the ups and downs and bumps and bruises, and knowing what the set list was in Cleveland, aside from one song, I have heard every single one of those songs in order for my 5th show on this tour, I believe, if I go back and check. I don't care, especially after the year that we've had in our family. That, yeah, we still got some health concerns to try and sidestep and figure out what we're going to do. It could have been a lot worse. Once we had got the all clear from the cancer and life started getting back to normal, and we started getting back into a bi-weekly, we had the tickets for Rosemont come around, I think before all this had started, actually. So I think it was back in March when those tickets went on sale, March or February. But we had something new and fun to talk about. And then this community really started getting tight between all the shows that I mentioned at the top, and that we're all going to see KISS one last time. And I even snuck in a show thanks to Randall, through Xander hooked me up, and Randall was just like, oh yeah, I just want somebody to go with me to the show. So I got to go to Columbus to see KISS on May 27th, which is kind of cool that my last show was November 27th. So at a time where things were really kind of crazy for us, health-wise, my wife's like, you need a win. And I know we've been kind of poking fun at like, why is Say Yeah still there and some other things. Hearing some of those songs again, I was just like, that's what this is all about. Is having fun, celebrating this band. How many times have I heard all of these songs over and over and over and over and over again? You can listen to Destroyer 90 million times, but we go to a concert and you go, I've heard these same songs in the exact same order. I've gone 7 times. I'm tired of, then don't go. But I'm getting to see these songs one more time. And not only that, my 2 brothers, Nick and Nico Caruso, I will be sitting for the first time since doing this podcast. I will be sitting side by side with them. We will be at sound check with Brant. Brant will be sitting on the other end of the arena. Xander and Jeb will just be a section above us that we could get out of our seats and run up to go see them and high five and hug and handshake. We're going to be passing out buttons for the podcast. So if you're at Rosemont, come find us. If you're going to Soundcheck, come find us. Be looking around the arena because we might drop some of these various places. This is about celebration. It's not about, I don't need to hear, the tail end of 100,000 years after the drum solo. But I get to see my favorite drummer of all time, Eric Singer, do a drum solo one more time live that I get to be there for. I feel like for every one of these shows that I've seen, if I can remember them, would be Toledo, would be Clarkston, Michigan, would be Dayton, would be Columbus. This would be a 5th show. And then going to essentially Chicago, Rosemont, to go see those 4 shows. And I'm also counting Dubai. I paid just about as much for the Rosemont show as I paid for the Dubai stuff. So there you go. 6 shows. I don't know if I had a chance to really take that in. So I know this is stuff that we would talk about, and I will probably re-say on our final episode of the Rosemont series. But it's really this album, and I knew that just by me doing this video, it may not necessarily be about Hot in the Shade. We've already reviewed the album on the podcast, but I'm just looking at the, track list here. Again, The Street Giveth and Street Taketh Away. You Love Me to Hate You was a sleeper song for me. It took me a while to get in. I love that song. Basically, after Cadillac Dreams, which was all right, Gene, the rest of the album, for me, is almost flawless. I think this is, I would say for me personally, as much as I love this album, this is my entry point. I love every single song. It's going to be flawless. I've got my goggles on, my, beer goggles, my KISS goggles, if you will, and that's okay. It's hard to not like the thing that made you a fan of whatever it was, because if that's the first taste of the thing that you got to like other things, and people go, you mean to tell me that you like this better, that the Hot in the Shade's better than Destroyer? Yeah, for me, because of the memories I have with this, riding around with my best friend, cruising the circuit for chicks, and wishing I could have somebody to sing forever to, and he and I playing in a band and playing KISS songs for the first time, and actually legitimately be able to play and go, that kind of sounds like Cold Gin. It's this album. It is currently number 2 in my favorite KISS albums of all time on the podcast. We haven't reviewed all of them yet. Revenge is number 1. This is a very close second, and on the right day, today, and especially on the 17th of October, this might have been number 1. It's hard to forget your first KISS. Don't let anybody tell you that any version of the band that you like is not good, because it is. It means that much to you. That's what this should all be about. Especially this year, we should be doing the victory lap with the band, being able to reminisce about all of our favorite shows and all of the people that we have met through this whole journey, and the people that we are going to meet, that we are going to be the ones, we are one, they're going to take this beyond what the band is going to do. So this was a Hot in the Shade 35th anniversary video, but this is a 35th anniversary of me being a KISS fan and why I love this band so much. And I played Little Caesar so many times today just thinking of Eric Carr. He was that first nudge that I went, I want to be a drummer. And I can't thank this band enough, and I can't thank the brothers and sisters that I've met through the various podcasts that I'm going to be able to high five and shake hands very soon. But if you don't have, if you're a KISS fan, you do. Pull out Hot in the Shade. Forget about what the internet says about this album and just listen to some good old rock and roll. No frills, no nothing. You can call this a demo album, whatever. But this kind of reminds me of the first KISS album in a ways. It's raw. It's really stripped down. It's my first KISS, and this starts my era of KISS and why I love this band so much. Thanks for watching this episode. Thanks for letting me get some of this off my chest. Again, thanks to Nick and Nico for allowing me to do some of these videos to keep the podcast going. But be sure to check out our newest video coming out next Thursday. It is going to be The Road to Rosemont Part 5. It's our Halloween episode, and we've only got 6 Rosemont episodes to do. And the 6th one will be right up until the moment we all leave to go see KISS. So more on that in a month's time. Stay tuned for the next Rosemont episode. Thanks for watching. On the behalf of Nick and Nico, I'm Rob. You've been watching Right Between the Eyes podcast, celebrating the 35th anniversary of arguably one of my favorite KISS albums and my entry point to this band, Hot in the Shade. Thanks for watching.